Oh, both.
I won't listen to Drake's music because I remember him being the cute little, and I don't want to ruin the image of him.
Well, we are live for another week of Bogus Hangout. And Kristen is here right at the start. Do not adjust your clocks. She's done it. Bill, what have you been up to?
We know it may come to an end.
I'm looking at a updated version of Google's patent on one boxes and trying to figure out how different it is from the earlier versions. And it looks like they picked one way of deciding what one box is to show and decided to go with that one, which has a lot to do with user experience signals and metrics, where they measure different things about different people who have visited pages and try to follow those patterns in deciding who to show those pages to.
That's a good point, Bill. I'm actually dealing with a site that lost all its one boxes, and they changed the website too. And it's, let's say I'm not happy with the way the other people did it. They changed my way, and they lost pretty well all their one boxes.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Let's say it's kind of like, you know, what do, right? They chose the word. They let someone else mess with my work. They didn't even maintain the titles. And we had like 3 times as many #1 placements as we do now.
Yep.
Because we dominated the one box, like dominated it.
Is that the same thing? There's a lot of talk. I was just reading about how Google picks, you know, something to provide an answer, and at the same time may provide an image from somebody else yet in the same box. Is that something you guys are familiar with at all, or?
That is something that's sort of been known about what Google selects as an answer, and they might pick something from a completely different page to show as a image related to it.
Right. What about the flux? I mean, I understand that there's a lot of change. Like what's in a box today, it's something else 3 hours or 4 hours from now. It's something else tomorrow. A lot of turnover.
There can be. Some are pretty solid.
The only people who've been doing statistics on those, I think, has been Eric Inge at Stone Temple.
Right. Yeah.
And he's done, I think, like 3 different studies over a period of 1.5 years. And his measures of flux were, this has changed from what it was 6 months ago, not what it was yesterday.
Yeah, that's a pretty long span. So
just
curious about that because it's such
I think on the rankings of local, the boxes especially, I'll bet if I ask Darren at White Spark, who specializes in local, he'll have a pretty good idea too what's changed.
Right.
They've been talking about the ranking factors for a while.
Yeah, it's hot stuff.
One of the things that's good about the one boxes is that it can pull from 2 or 3 different sources.
Right.
Which means it isn't a zero-sum game. It isn't one person gets it all. You know, you can compete, and there is a chance that even if you don't get the main part of that box, it may be some part of your stuff that's providing the rest. It could be the images, as we've said. Sometimes you get one that's giving the description, but another one is giving extra information, extra links to other places. There is quite a mix.
And sometimes
what I found was the sites that replaced us, it's all about the links, because they're the guys before that I kind of let's say I've looked at their backlinks and they aren't what I would call the highest quality.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes with one boxes, it could be things like if there's a topical news story, that could replace the one box that you have if lots of people are paying attention to that story. If it's relevant to whatever the query term was that was showing that one box result. It might be a local based result that might replace something. It might be a news story.
That makes sense.
You know, you do have featured snippets, and they come from a fact-based repository now, which is another item that might replace things like images or news or local. So you sort of got a bigger mix of things that could fit in one box space.
Let's put Ammon on the spot here. Ammon, what are you having for lunch or for dinner?
Well, dinner. Yeah. It's homemade chili.
Ah, hey, I'm getting some of that tonight. That's quite a coincidence. Didn't know I was stopping by.
Tuesdays are a bit of a rush sometimes, so it tends to be things that I can cook in advance and freeze and then microwave on the night. And chili's always a good one for that.
Yep, make it in a big pot and save some of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I freeze it.
Always been one of my favorite things.
Yep.
Always have stew, chili, and tomato sauce in the freezer.
Yep. Yep.
Make up big pots on the weekend. Use her up through the week.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things that actually there are SEO similarities. There are stories that we sometimes put on the back burner. There are pages that you line up for searches that might happen in the future. It's one that we used to use for news sites quite a lot.
Yeah.
You keep track of second-rate public figures. The ones who there isn't a lot of traffic for now, but sooner or later, something is either going to bring them into the news or eventually they're going to die. You know, one way or the other, there is going to be traffic on them eventually. But it was the way back in the day before we had news search. That was how you managed news search, was you made sure that you were the portal for Desmond Tutu or for Donald Trump or for, you know, you made sure you already had the ranking and the authority for certain figures. And then when the news suddenly hit and people suddenly were searching, there's a very good chance that your version of that story would be lifted by the authority you built ages before.
Or it's like my freezer. It's like the obit department, the obituaries. Where things go to die, and then you kind of resurrect them at some point in the future. Get rid of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it happens. But there's a lot of SEO that is a long-term game. You know, when we talk about content marketing, that is the ultimate of it, because most people are using content marketing the wrong way. They're trying to do it for traffic, and doing content marketing for traffic, that takes years. That really does take a couple of years to build up enough backlog of various things that all of that long tail traffic adding up is actually a decent volume. You know, content marketing is much more about a message, about a reputation, about building brand that has the ongoing effect, and that will kick in a lot sooner.
Yeah, building up, you know, layer upon layer of the long tail stuff that's bringing traffic over time, and seeing a, you know, good 20% growth over 6 months or 12 months or something for a publisher or something. That's awesome. One challenge that I'm seeing right now is for an industry-wide like association. So you've got somebody who's not in it for the money necessarily, but they need lots of members in a particular industry.
Yeah.
The idea for them is that they need to get ahead of the curve. They have to be proactive. They have to think ahead of many in their industry and predict what's going to be popular, what people will need to know. Some of that I think you can only really get at if you're knee deep in the industry. But other than looking in Google Trends, do you guys have any? Would you think of any special tricks where you would say, oh, I'm gonna do a special kind of search on this, or I'm gonna look this up in this or that tool, so that I can ride the train. I can see what's coming down the tracks and I can jump that ahead of time.
Okay, one thing I've asked clients about that might be helpful in a situation like that is, what sources of news do they turn to find out about new things coming up within that industry? What types of things might trigger changes that you might want to keep an eye out for? And using a subject matter expert is always helpful in identifying those things.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they aren't necessarily the ones who run the industry trade group you're talking about, but maybe a related one that might provide information to them.
That's a good idea. I look into BuzzSumo, and I'm looking at what's been most resonant and popular, what is attracting links in Ahrefs, and what is getting lots and lots of shares. But even if you close the scope down to like the last month or over a year, see what was popular like in this season a year ago. It's just hard to imagine what is going to be trending. What until like day of, you start seeing it coming up as a hashtag or something, and you dive on it. So just all data being backward looking, it's hard to think being predictive.
Well, this reminds me of a story from the forums that Bill and I were admins of years ago. There was a woman who went by the forum name of Kesa, who ran a site called Chess Central, and she was the main supplier of some chess software called Fritz 8, and she'd built up a very good site. She'd been using the forum for a while. She'd followed a lot of good advice. And then she started to dabble with news. And what she did was she heard early on that there was an idea to put the Grandmaster against another computer. And she started following that story early. And she laid the groundwork early. And when that match happened, again, she'd already built up that reputation. She'd built up the readership by jumping on it quite early. And you don't have to predict, but you do sometimes have to take the gamble and say, if this goes ahead, this will be good, so I am going to run some content on it. And if you do that with, say, 10 different events, if you've got the manpower for that, you know what? The chances are at least 4 of them are going to run, are going to fly, and they're going to be bigger traffic than anything else you could have done with the time that you'd put into those 10.
I think her prediction of that event ended up being reported upon by the New York Times.
Yes.
So she became the story.
Exactly.
So getting out ahead of seasonal things, of things that almost anybody could see and expect are coming, but you're the voice, you're the go-to.
Exactly, and the good thing is that was a perfect tie-in, because of course one of the main uses of that software is that people use it to replay specific games. You can program in an exact game and it will play that game exactly until the point at which you start to vary the tactics, at which point it will start to vary as well. But it was a perfect tie-in. Her audience were interested in famous games, and knowing that a new famous game was going to be coming up was absolutely the right thing to do. So, don't just jump on anything. It's got to be quite specific. It needs to be something that your audience is going to care about and that's going to carry your reputation in the right area.
Awesome.
But the good thing is, if you know your business, the chances are you know quite a few things that are coming up that most people don't.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good stuff. Into future. So I can put away the crystal ball for now.
Yes.
Wasn't working very well.
Get a snow globe instead.
Yeah, that's always good.
You know, one of the big parts of our industry is always laying down a few traps. You know, we used to talk about honey traps and spider traps, but actually you're kind of putting down some news traps. If this suddenly happens, this is going to be a huge area. A lot of people are suddenly going to be doing burstiness searches in this field. What results are there? And the chances are that most of the ones are not aimed at that.
So, Ammon, you started out as a journalist? Is that what I'm hearing, or?
No, no, no.
No. I mean, that's a very
did security for a newspaper for a while, but
well, okay. So yeah, I mean, you know, who is it? Omi, some other people, you know, working hard for, you know, very large media, very newspaper kind of publications, online SEO and stuff. It's that's something that I think pushes SEO in terms of, you know, quick results. People are accustomed to saying, oh, well, you know, it could be 2-3 months before you start to see some action. News cannot afford that.
not on the individual, but of course the brand effect of a news source is built up over time. You look at how long it took for Jen to get where she's got with SendPost, which is fantastic, but it takes time for people to A, notice, and B, have confidence that it's going to keep that level up. And likewise, Search Engine Journal, SEJ, had that authority for a long time, let its quality slip with some of the guest posts and articles that were being submitted just not being very good, and it lost a lot of authority and people lost confidence. And, you know, it took a long time for them to stabilize that, and actually it seems to be slipping again.
Yeah, it's a hard thing, right? Like, you want people to trust you and you want people to rely on you and lean on you, and you try to do that and you keep it up and you keep it up. And, you know, I think about how I try to use Twitter and I try to curate good stuff and I try to put it out there all the time. It's a micro effort. It's a micro blog, really. It's not like I'm writing volumes of stuff with deep value like, say, Bill does, but, you know, I try to be consistent and I can see it pretty much immediately. If I fall off the pace, miss a few days, boom.
This is exactly where Search Engine Journal and Search Engine Land have gone wrong. Look, Danny is still a great writer. His stuff is still fantastic. But in their desperation to have fresh news all the time, to have lots of stories coming in, they've had to let editorial standards slip at times. All of them. Jen isn't falling for that. She writes like a demon. She puts out a lot of content, but she's not opening it out to just anybody to get volume in there. You know what? If Jen has a slow news day, she'll swallow a slow news day and not worry about it. Whereas a lot of other people, it got into the schedules, it got into having writers that must submit and this week and that week, and stacking up the posts until they're no longer fresh. Because let's face it, you know, sometimes when the inspiration really hits us, the really good stuff is good fresh.
Yeah,
it's a bit like, you know, having great chefs and then freezing all of their meals.
Right, quality deserves freshness. But yeah, I went through that developing, you know, working with a couple of blog editors at SEMrush, and we had a dictate that there was a level of output that was desired, and it was like, excuse the expression, it was ball busting to try and do that, and it was a terrible grind, and it became apparent that even with the world full of SEO writers and PPC writers and the rest of it, that there was just not enough good content, not enough time to edit it enough, especially given, you know, all the multitude of languages that we were trying to turn into English. And in the end, we made the goal. We made 6 posts per day. And, you know, at that point, I think both the editors and everybody connected with the blog was ready to have a nervous breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
You're writing a lot of nonsense. If
yeah,
you're
right. And you couldn't help it.
today, you're writing a lot of nonsense.
A lot of
Even
nonsense.
Bill can't do that. If
Yep.
Bill can't do it, it can't be done.
Yeah. And at that point, everybody said, hey, you know, this is absurd, and it has been absurd, and it's gotten even more absurd. So now let's step aside and let's say, you know, we will publish no post before it's time. We will polish things. We will take time to think about what people really should be interested in, or what's readable and what's worthy. And we're not going to hit some fake mark, you know. So yeah, that was definitely.
Well, that's the thing. You've got to set your goalpost with quality. You're not gonna build or maintain credibility if you're just throwing syllables up on the page to fill the gap.
Right. And part of that, you know, knowing that every post had to have promotion, and knowing that we were relying on guest authors and guest authors who brought some promotion of their own, right, made a sensible model in terms of just like getting the stuff out there. So it wasn't like people weren't reading it and the sessions weren't up, but there were no comments. There was a ton of sharing sometimes, but sporadically, but just the quality of the posts, and you just had to go, whoa, you know.
But even people don't share as much as they used to.
And you remember when Rank Brain came out, all the articles that came out about Rank Brain and how it worked by people who were flying by the seat of their pants and guessing completely?
Yeah.
99.9% of them.
Yeah.
Like 100% of them, because nobody can interpret what those goddamn machines are saying to each other anymore. So they kind of do their own thing and they talk to each other, and the humans are like, I don't know, what's it doing, you know?
Well, when Bloomberg came out with their article with interview with Jack Clark, who had interviewed people at Google about what Rank Brain was, that meant we were getting it secondhand, but we were getting some good information. They did provide some.
Mhm.
And if you followed the trails to those, you found some things, but maybe not enough to tell you what Rank Brain actually was and how it worked.
Exactly. You can't build up, even with the best will in the world. The minute a news breaks, everyone's trying to write about that thing, and they're of course going to jump too soon. Of course they are. I mean, Bill and I gently teased Danny for his frequently asked questions about Hummingbird that came out the instant Hummingbird came out. Yeah, how frequently were those questions asked in the last half an hour?
I asked him that, and he looked at me like I was coming up with something strange, and I said, Daddy, that article, that Rank Brain just came out. No, Hummingbird just came out. How much time was there for frequently asked questions? He looked at me, he said, it's a good point.
Yeah,
So I remember when Rank Brain came out, he started asking people about Rank Brain on Twitter that day and the day after, as if to build up some frequently asked questions.
yeah, but he was doing all the asking.
Right.
Questions I frequently asked about Rank Brain.
What you do is you rename that to the frequently unanswered questions.
It's very tough. I mean, I am ruthless in saying quality first. Well, you know how rarely I will write a post. I don't care. I want every post to be something that, you know, I've spent time on it, and you know I wanted to write that, or it wouldn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I you know, don't therefore build up random and traffic numbers, but random traffic numbers aren't what I'm interested in. It's that perception that, you know, if I'm going to talk about something, it's going to be something that I've thought about and it's worth reading, hopefully.
Right. So the blog posts I'm working on this morning, I decided to cite a blog post I wrote in 2007 as a lead-in, because it shows I've been thinking about it for that long.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a new record, Bill.
No, it's not.
2007, 2016. That's wow.
No. Bill sometimes cites papers that he first wrote about in 2003, 2004.
No, that's true, and I think readers, I know I do, but I think readers in general really appreciate that, and that's what makes Bill's blog and others I can think of really quality, because obviously for SEO effect, interlinking articles that are relevant to the same kind of topic and elaborating on it, that's awesome stuff. But just for readers to say, oh damn, they're talking about that rank brain thing, and I kind of remember something about it. I really like getting that link back to something. Hopefully not BS, but something.
Yeah.
I love reading Aaron Bradley's blog. Is that he does a really good job at pulling things in that, it was just like at the time, I didn't have any clue what was going on with the internet when he was researching things. Really a neat thing to me, about you guys being so experienced, having put so much time into developing your skills.
It's one of the reasons that I've often advocated when people are starting, if they want to start building up an audience, that the easiest thing is to every day read your stream, find your 3 favorite posts and link to them with a paragraph about what you liked about them, what connects them together. That way you're giving your personal take, you're giving your little editorial, and it doesn't have to be huge, but you are over time building up that personality, that curation of content every single day, drip fed, and it actually works. And you do start remembering stories and quoting back and connecting the dots for people. And that kind of thing is absolutely minimal effort, and yet it really does work.
For me, that's how I use Twitter and a lot of the social platforms. It's actually my bullshit filter, so to speak. If I see Bill linking to it, what do I know? Well, I know it's something that I should read.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually how my first website site started back in the day. I just found resources and wrote a little bit about them. It was as much how I remembered the things that I had learned. It was part of the exercise.
Yeah. Process.
Yeah, it's
going through and doing it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I mentioned BuzzSumo, Steve Rayson, the guy, director of the company. But he did that study, and I think he may have done the original one with a lot of information, I think, from Ahrefs, possibly Moz, the prevalence of sharing over the prevalence of linking, right? Yeah. So how easy it is for a post to get thousands and thousands of shares, but how many people actually read it? And like Terry was saying, it's a bullshit filter. Anybody can just click like, and anybody can just click share, but it's your own personal code. I try not to share too much stuff that I haven't read first. And if I don't have the time to read it, it might be something hot, and it might be something I want to be associated with, and that, I think would bring me protocol points. People would think I was smart, but I can't do it, and I think that's probably why most people do share. They see something hot, they want to be trendy, they want to be humorous, they want to share the latest cat picture, whatever it is, but
they want to lie, and they want to puff themselves up and appear to be big.
Most often they want you to share something of theirs back.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
a lot of it is
often a reciprocal.
They're sharing. Well, Ammon's my friend, so I've got to share his stuff because he shared my thing last week, and without any regard to what he put up.
Oh, what about feeds? People who just hook up to a feed and retweet everything. That SEL post.
Bug feeds, yeah.
I'm always paranoid that someone's going to ask me questions.
Thank you.
If I share something.
Exactly.
Well,
Usually always read them first.
that's it. I always want to be able to defend why I share it.
I did not read this. Don't ask me questions. I just want to bookmark this.
I'm just doing
That's acceptable.
Well, it's like when I share something, I don't very often share something without making some commentary on it because, I said, well, I disagree with this point, or I can see why he says this, but it seems to me that this is a fallacy. At least it demonstrates that you read it. And a lot of times I'll see a piece that is worth sharing, but there's a key piece that I really disagree with. Maybe I just think I got a different perspective on it. Maybe I just think it's wrong. But I don't like normally just sharing something.
But it's like an interesting idea.
Yeah, I don't like to just hit share and throw it up on my wall without having anything to offer for it. I don't think there's much value in that to anybody.
Even if it's just to say whether or not you agree with it, right?
Yeah.
Because people are following you because they like you or entertained by you or respect your opinion.
I've never experienced that, though.
Right. And so, kind of for people, you're a brand, you're a person, right? You have interests and certain knowledge and stuff. And so your perspective has value. And when you take a second to offer that, that's another dimension that you've added. It's awesome. Without that, it's so valueless. It's just, it's a veneer, and it's kind of unfortunate that it turns into that. It's just like walking down the street and say, hey, how's the weather? Oh, it's great out today, isn't it? See you, It
is a bit like, I do sometimes feel that social networks are blogging for people who can't write more than one paragraph. And unfortunately, that has tended to be the case. It is a dumbing down of what we used to do with blogging. Blogging, somebody wrote a great piece. You would write your thoughts on it, and you would, write them at length, and you would link to the article that you'd read, and you would share, but you would share your thoughts as well as the piece itself. And social media lets you do that with one question or more.
Good old days when a ping back wasn't just spam.
Yeah. But it's not like you can do a decent takedown in social media.
Yeah. When I first started working with...
It really depends on the...
Oh, sorry. I was kind of skeptical of blogging and social. Blogging because of my experiences in the early years with how people just steal your stuff and don't give you any credit and, all that stuff that's not so nice. So I didn't put a lot of stock in it. So they talked me into doing it. And first thing I wanted to do was look at the metrics. Well, I had stuff that had been retweeted 4 times the amount of people who would actually be at the site. So we had 4 times as many retweets as we had actual people coming to the site.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you're so famous.
I just looked at Dave and said, this is all, doesn't look too inspiring to me, Dave. Not sure how much I want to put into this.
But we got used to this in the forum days backwards. In the forum days, there would be 100 readers for everybody that commented.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Now you get 100 comments for everyone that actually read all the way to the end.
Yep. What blogs, was it? Is Search Engine Land one of them that removed their comment apparatus?
Yeah, they did.
That just shocked me. Then there was a wave of them who did it because they didn't want to have, community manager hovering over that and spend time to moderate it anymore. And it just, I think that eviscerates it now. Yes, go and share our stuff on social media and have your conversation there. Seems so ass backwards. Like, go ahead, leave my domain.
And I questioned Danny about it on Twitter, and he insisted that people actually do have conversations on social media, that comments do actually get read when they're made about search engine land articles on Twitter. And I said, do you have any proof?
Of course.
Do you know what? I am going to defend that position because, quite honestly, you know, I'm a big fan of Barry.
Yeah.
But I look at Search Engine Roundtable and I wish he would turn off the comments because, my God, it's like the special bus drove past and dropped everybody off at once.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as YouTube.
Jeez.
It's worse than YouTube.
I tell you, some of it is. I don't know how he can have the patience to put up with some of the trolls. I'd be breaking out the shotgun.
Yeah, it's like the commentary on a pro or anti-Trump post that takes off, but without the politics or any thought. You know, people getting that excited about spam.
So just, you know, it's nice that people have a place where they can go and vent their spleen, you know, and you know, air out their adrenal gland for a little bit. But you know,
MySpace is still online, Michael.
Huh?
MySpace is still
MySpace. All 25 million people trolling each other in an endless circle jerk.
There you go.
It's nuts, and so but some people are so practiced at it that it's amazing, you know, and they keep their arsenal of memes to pull out. It's kind of similar to entertaining memes, you know, like Alan Bleiweiss using his meme of the girl in the burning building. I love that, you know, and it's so appropriate, but still, you know, people trotting these things out, and it's a proxy for real emotion, you know, or saying something, but you know, it probably conveys all that's necessary. So interesting.
I do get some comments on my site every once in a while. They're really thoughtful, really appropriate, and
like that, because you've got in-depth material, and you're always thoughtful in return. You know, so.
Well, yeah, you're attracting a different kind of audience, Bill. You know, you're very deep and thoughtful in your presentation. You're very even-handed and realistic. You're not dropping a bunch of opinionated crap in there saying, "Here's what I think they must have meant to say." So you're attracting a different audience. And
I think just the long words scared some of them away.
Very site.
Then you have the difference in PR between Bill's site and Search Engine Land, and you know, all the, you know, kind of slow people think that really matters when you're
I think it's
some
simple.
of us have seen the occasional fool that made the mistake of challenging Bill and talk about evisceration. Few people, you know, really, they just don't want to go there.
Yeah, but I think Bill, I've seen the comments, he's pretty even-handed. Like,
oh yeah,
you know, he sees
yeah.
other people's opinions, and
Yeah, Bill, you were
just really dumb ones he seems to turn on a little.
oh, absolutely.
You were a community manager for a couple of years, weren't you, Bill?
Yeah.
I was an administrator at a forum. I'm not sure I'd call that a community manager. I guess we did fill that role. We answered lots of questions. We got lots of the same questions over and over, and we answered them different ways each time. But
yeah. I like being customer service, yeah.
I usually jumped on the spammers before anyone else could get to them. I gave them a long, thoughtful post a lot of the time, and yeah.
The tag team spammers were lots of fun. The guy who, clueless guy who would ask a just stupid question, and his friend who would show up a few minutes later, who'd never met him before, knew the answer, spelled it in detail.
Right.
And yet they've both got the same site in their SIG file and stuff like that. I mean, some of them were that stupid. And of course, you'd spot that the same two names had posted on every other forum as well. And
yes. Oh my God! Yes.
That.
Yes. Yes. We've all seen that. Like, you know,
if we got one of those leading question type things and we thought, oh, here we go, we would immediately look in the other forums. And lo and behold, there's the same username posting the same question. And there's his tag team.
You can't even think of
expecting this guy before he turned up. I think there was once one post where we said, don't worry, I'm sure, and we named the other guy, we'll be along in a moment to answer it, the same as he has on the other 5 forums, and then kicked him out, bye-bye, with a link to the other forums, and that was it. His account was shut.
Wow. To get predictive. Look, it's Thursday at 2. It must be time for so-and-so to come on and do his thing, you know.
We did use them as entertainment, it had to be said. But there was a lesson in there. You know, we showed people how idiotic these tricks were, how easily spotted, and how instead of doing something, do you know what? If the guy had posted a thoughtful question about why he'd created this software that fixed this problem, that would have stayed. We would have had a discussion about it. But because he's trying to pretend to be in desperate need of it and then answer his own question with his little puppet account, he got himself kicked instead and made a laughing stock of, and nobody's now going to trust anything his site says because the guy's a liar. His first instinct is to reach for lies.
Yeah, well, you know, if that's the case, you're probably talking about somebody who does that on 46 different domains once a week, you know what I mean? So not being trusted in one of them, he's getting 12 or 13 leads, you know, every time he does it or something. It's just, it's a game of numbers, and it's too bad that they just kind of like leave this mess wherever they go, you know.
And unfortunately, Michael, it's kind of like the Nigerian scam letters. You know, 10,000 sent out. Only, you know, if 4 or 5 fall for it, then it was money well spent, right? And there are some people out there that'll fall for that kind of garbage.
And all of those Nigerian emails were definitely worth it just to see that one English comedian who got him on the phone or was like sending a message. We need to use code, you know, and all of that was just. It was awesome. It was awesome. I wish I could teach my mother-in-law to deal with like phone spam like that, you know, just it would be so entertaining. She's 93. Yes. She gets all of that stuff. It's I have to like take the phone away from her. Say, look, the guy has a Russian accent. Stop talking to him, you know. Nothing.
If Andrei Lipatsev is watching this, you know, it's nothing against Russian or Cyrillic accents.
Nothing against that. Nothing against Nigeria. They have a beautiful dialect. It's very musical, you know, and you know, very smart people and a burgeoning culture. But just, you know, look, right here we are, SEOs. Black hats give us all a black eye, right? It can happen to an industry. It can happen to a country full of people. You know, you become synonymous with crap. You know, it's too bad.
Oh, I might be the only one here that has ever done Black Hat. But I certainly know an awful lot of people who have done an awful lot for this industry who were Black Hats, at least at one time.
Sure.
It doesn't matter whether you're looking at Greg Boza or Dave Naylor. It doesn't matter whether you're looking at Brett Tabke or Barry Lloyd. There were a lot of very, very good people who used Black Hat tactics because it worked. It was the right thing to do for a particular campaign, or it was the most economical thing for a particular campaign. But the difference was, as Barry Lloyd used to put it, yes, I'm a spammer, but I'm an elegant spammer.
Well, plus, where to better learn the intricacies and play on the dark side. You know, that's where you really learn how the stuff works.
Yeah.
You know, so I would think that the learning curve there is going to be steeper and shorter than playing it. Like myself, I play very conservatively. I always stay well on the shallow end of the pool, but I'm not going to learn as much there or as fast either.
It's true. It's true.
I go out there and try to run a blog network of 1,500 blogs selling links. I'm either going to learn or I'm going to starve to death. You know,
the early years working the adult industry and the scale of dealing with that and the competition in dealing with that put me years ahead.
But that's in some, like they're all black hats, so it's not really black hatted. It's the way the industry.
It's just normal.
Actually,
I started there. when you're talking to someone who looked at that for a long time. Same
Dating
with
sites.
phones, right?
Dating sites, most of them use Black Hat. Now,
Jerry, being a male escort isn't the same.
So, you know what I'm saying? That basically, as far as I've seen, you can push distribution, but you can't push the words and bad content. You know what I mean? Barry was more of a guy who was very smart at distribution, right? He didn't post spam. He just knew how to automate things. To me, that's not really spam. That's automation.
he was one of those ones who said, let's face it, a lot of what we do is spam by the search engine's guidelines. And, you know, back then it probably was. You have to be conservative. However, you know, I mean, one of my favorite stories is dating sites where in the days of Alta Vista, you know, we kept getting our page copied because
for me,
that was what people would do in those days.
For me, right, the thing that matters is that the site that ends up in the top 10 deserves to be there. If it deserves to be there, in my opinion, how we got there is not so important, as long as the value to the user is equivalent to the others in the SERP. Does that sound reasonable? Or
that sounds like the end justifies the means.
Yeah. Doesn't every idiot out there think their site
That's
deserves
SEO,
to be
right?
the one,
No,
isn't
I'm
it?
just kidding.
okay, yeah, I agree there. But I think like you and I could decide, look at a site and say this site actually does deserve to be there based on the real content on the site.
Yep. You have to go from what the user thinks, and you know, it's not the person pushing it. So you're right. You know, if the value is served, then the means justify the end, so to speak, right? But when it comes to selling a pair of sneakers, right, and you've got, you know, 116 different sites selling that same pair of sneakers, then it's like, you know, they're flogging that thing as hard as they possibly can. And it's just, I mean, the difference in value between one of those pages selling those sneakers and another can be infinitesimal. It can be so tiny a difference. It's like you couldn't tell, you know.
Yeah, one guy could have the whole history of that Nike shoe, whereas another guy would have one line, and they're both using the same distribution methods. To me, if the guy with the good content gets there, that's okay. If the other guy gets there, well, he's degraded the SERP. So that's not right, right? Just like when too many bad sites get in the SERP, that's bad. That's really bad, because that ruins the experience for not just one person, but a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
We run the risk, though. We run the risk of getting into very petty arguments sometimes. You know, oh, this site was much better designed. The content's much better. Well, the average user doesn't think so. The average user doesn't care. They just want to buy the product. So even though we as webmasters can see that one site is vastly superior, doesn't mean that the user can, and doesn't mean that it's not right. Look, VHS, Betamax. Betamax was the better system. VHS won.
It's very true.
Sometimes these things happen.
Well,
you know,
yeah, look how many
successful
subscribers Neil Patel has.
Probably McDonald's, Taco Bell.
I think they both work. Just, you know, I gave up like painting people as black and, you know, all the stuff that went on I Help You. I worked in two industries where if you didn't spam, you shouldn't be charging anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's why when I did payday loans, I told the guy, I won't even take money from you for SEO. I'll do your pay per click, but I won't touch SEO because, you know, I don't want to do the things. It's not that I can't, it's I don't want to. I'd have to take it further than I'm comfortable.
Yeah, but even there, does depend on their brand strategy. It depends on their budgets. It depends on a lot of things. Let's face it, there are always more elegant ways to do things. Yeah, you can do the black hat route with a lot of things where, well, if you do that in the long run, it's going to cost you a lot more than doing it properly. Yeah, it will get you there faster, but you will have to keep investing. Black hat is a lot like pay-per-click. There is an ongoing investment. You are always having to keep on top of it, keep on top of what's changing, keep on top of the fact that, lots of the work you've done has no longevity, and it needs to be done again and again and again and again and again.
It evaporates overnight, and every day you start afresh, and the signals get wiped out, and the domains get burned up. Yeah, it's constantly being on the treadmill, and that can be very, very grinding that way.
It's why a lot of people did switch. Dave Naylor for a long time was adamantly black hat, and then it became more economically viable to be white hat. That was just where the money was for most clients. There are still industries where the black hat will work, or it will work for a short time, but the disadvantage is, look, you better be taking your money fast and closing down fast. You need to be a fly-by-night operation for black hat to work out really in the long term. Because if you're still going to be there in 2 years, if your business is still going to exist in 2 years, then you might as well invest in white hat. And from that 2 year period on, you're going to be so much better off than you would have been with the black hat.
I did SEO for a Canadian pharmacy, and it was shortly after Google told Canadian pharmacies that it wasn't accepting pay-per-click money from them anymore. So the guy had been spending $100,000 a month on pay-per-click and had to switch over to SEO completely from that. That first month of SEO that he did would help. He did more sales on his Canadian pharmacy site than he had been using pay-per-click, just with straight white hat SEO.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And this is it. There's always plenty of long tail. People are that. Google is still saying 15% of all its searches, all those billions of searches done, 15% are unique. They've never shown up before. And in any smaller sample, how many unique in that day, it tends to be higher. But overall, it's still 15% of all searches have never turned up before. There's always more long tail.
Yeah, it's not like people are inventing words necessarily, but yeah, how they're put together, or new products and services coming on the market, or just vernacular changes and things. But 15% is a pretty good opportunity.
Stars, new thing, new news events. Yeah, things do turn up, and that kind of brings us.
Yeah, what Trump just said. There's a never-ending supply of stuff coming up.
Yeah. We are getting towards the top of the hour, so I think it's time to.
Are we really?
Yeah, we'll kick around and find out what everyone else is up to without having to rush everyone this week, just for a change. Bill, let's start with you, sir.
Okay, I'm working on putting together my PubCon presentation. I'm starting early so I can let the graphic designers go at it this time.
Nice.
What a luxury.
Yeah.
Doc, how about you? What have you got coming up?
Well, still working on launch an SNC, and I just found out last night a client hired a kid in-house in IT, and that kid went through and changed all 1,346 pages, changed the URLs. I asked him how long it was going to take him to get the redirects in. Basically, his answer was the what? So there's that. That's going to be fun.
I mentioned the last couple of weeks that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office had changed all their URLs around on me, and it was ending up in broken links on my site
Yep.
that I linked to. Most of those are fixed now.
Ah,
They took a couple extra weeks to get redirects in place, but they did.
Well, that's good. That's good.
I guess a lot of people must have complained that all the links were broken.
well, I'm sure they weren't worried about their competition.
Kristen, how's your week looking? Is she frozen?
She's taking a nap.
Yeah. Okay. Michael.
No. So the thing that I brought up about being predictive and work for an association, a lot of content marketing, thinking ahead. That's kind of the big picture. In the short term, I just finished another weekend of certification land, and so I now have my analytics, AdWords search, and AdWords display certifications, and I'm not going to stop. I still have at least 3 more, possibly 4 more to do. So, I may get an early start, but that's turning out to be kind of like the weekend thing.
Cool. Cool. Terry.
Terry's yawning.
Yeah, long nights, late
Just
recently.
thinking of what he's got in the week ahead, he's making him exhausted.
I'm working on 2 or 3 websites now. Just I bought a domain about a year ago that for another person, and they decided they didn't want to build the website. Thought they were going to get the domains, and I laughed at them. So I'm about to build on it and sell his inventory for him.
Well, Christine, now you're back. What are you up to in the week ahead?
Unmute. There you go.
Yeah, I've got a couple of interviews that I'm wrapping up. And for WriteKit, we've added so many customization tools and just like galore. So really learning. What did the developers do? Wow, this is really cool. That sort of thing.
That's the opposite of what I've been doing. I'm doing a rebuild of a site that's been around for quite a while. It's had WordPress for a long time. It's had various plugins. It seems to have a style sheet that's got a life of its own. None of it seems to make a lot of sense. And yeah, I'm having to step into this and knowing that I don't think anybody in the company knows exactly what all the plugins were over time. Certainly nobody's ever kept track of all of the bits and pieces of it. So it's a bit of a pain in the behind. And I need to swap it over to, it's one of those sites where I'd love to do it in HTML, but they need it in WordPress so that anybody can update it. And when they say anybody, they mean people who can't code. The managing director is going to be, putting a lot of content on directly. A couple of the admin staff of the company are going to be putting in stuff directly. None of them know a lot of HTML and certainly no CSS or anything like that. So they need it to be a WordPress site. So I'm thinking that for once I have to go against all my principles and go for a site that looks fantastic, that converts like the devil, and not worry about the SEO part, because if you can get the conversions, traffic is a problem you can solve. As long as you've got the conversions, traffic can be bought. Is the conversions first. So I'm thinking that I have to actually go with a site where, yeah, I will get the links, I will get the reputation, I will get the branding, and we'll fill in with pay-per-click and with advertising, because as long as we know the conversions are there, we can afford to do that. But it goes against all my principles. But it will then allow them to do, you know, the managing director is a marketing person who loves hero images, you know, the big banners, the slider type images. They want to, you know, have 4 columns here that are little paragraphs, and then 3 columns under this image, and then another huge image that's maybe a video, and then, you know, a few more paragraphs in full width, and, you know, they want a mixed up style. And do you know what? They're right. For the kind of image they're going for, they need something that has a visual appeal over how good the code is, over how well the search engine rewards everything. So I'm going to go with it. After all, you know, I learned this lesson in my own business by stopping competing for SEO words. It wasn't my market. People who are looking for an SEO aren't looking for one of the most expensive SEOs with one of the most sets of experience. They're usually looking for somebody to get started with. By the time they've been around the block a couple of times and they're actually one of the customers I'd want, they're usually actually looking at people by name. They're getting recommendations. They are using what they've learned. They are reading articles, and they are following up on those people. And so, you know, my #1 search term for actually getting business through was my name.
You are the long tail.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, that's pretty much all we have time for this week. We will doubtless keep the green room going for a little while, but thanks for joining us, and see you again next week.
Thank you. Take care now.